Today, I want to answer a real simple question for you, which is how long does it take to become a millionaire? I want to give you some real numbers and give you some real idea of how long it will take you to basically have $1 million worth of net worth to become a millionaire. Now, I have achieved this status of generating $1 million in 5 different ways over my life. This video is not going to be about how to actually become a millionaire, but it's going to be about how long does it take to become a millionaire. And I'm going to give you some real numbers here. First of all, before we get into the numbers, we need to talk about what are the strategies that you can use to become a millionaire, and then which things are going to be most effective. So if you want to earn $1 million, the most raw way of doing that is if you just make a lot of money and then save a lot of money. So if you work a regular job and you can find a really high paying job, make a couple $100,000 a year. After you pay your taxes, maybe you can save $100,000 or $200,000 a year. And there you can do the math on that. When I got my first high paying job, I found though that the numbers didn't make a lot of sense. I didn't really want to wait for how long it would take me to become a millionaire. And being a millionaire doesn't mean that you're financially free. It doesn't mean that you have passive income. And I realized if I saved $100,000 a year and lived like a poor person and slept on a mattress on the floor, that it would take me obviously 10 years of just saving money to reach that status. But then I had inflation to deal with, which basically put me at around 13 years. That to me was not acceptable because of the sacrifices I would have to make of basically living like a poor person over 10 years in order to reach that. So that's one method of becoming a millionaire is straight cash. The second method is by doing some kind of investment. These things can be combined. So you could invest in the stock market and real estate, 401k, different investment vehicles. You have to choose the right one. That's the key. And so if you do that, then obviously you can compound that. You're relying on compounding interest in order to reach that goal. So you're going to make money, you're going to save that money, invest that money, and then hope that the markets or whatever investment vehicle you choose is going to compound it and get you to that point. The third way is to build some kind of a business and then sell that business. I'm not going to say making the money from the business because that would fall into the first category. You could have a job or you could have a business and make a bunch of money and say, just make the money from there. But this would be building a business, building some kind of an asset, and then selling that asset for enough of a profit that you end up with over $1 million. That's the third basic way of creating this kind of wealth. There's really no other option. And this is so important that you guys think about it in terms of this, is that anytime you're trying to solve some kind of problem, you need to figure out what are the options so that you can know which path are you going to take and you know what you're not going to do. And this is what I help all my coaching clients with is to get a plan to be able to execute on this. So with that said, think about it and think about if there's any other options. Is there anything else that you could do to make $1 million? Now, like I said, I've made $1 million in 5 different ways, but all 5 of those ways, they fall into one of these categories. You're either making straight income, or you're investing, or you're creating some kind of asset and selling it, building a business essentially. Now, I want to show you what it looks like for most of you guys on the real numbers of how long it will take you to make $1 million. And I'm going to give you the example of investing in real estate. So I have this spreadsheet that I've put together. It's pretty rough at this point, but this is going to be refined a little bit. I just want to show you real quick here. Let's look at the real estate first. Let's say that you invested $20,000 into a real estate property that is worth initially $200,000. So 10% down payment on maybe it's a duplex, something like that. And what you're gonna find is that on average, especially starting out, you're gonna have a principal pay down of about $3,500 a year. That's what you're gonna pay down on the mortgage, on a $180,000 mortgage. It'll be a little bit more than that. It'll increase every year, but I'm just using this as a rough estimate. You're gonna have a depreciation on this, which is worth for most people on their taxes about $3,000 a year, give or take a little bit here. But essentially the depreciation, if you don't know what depreciation is, by the way, if you're a little unclear on some of these real estate things, if you're a Bulldog Mindset member, go check out the videos I have in the membership on the real estate investment. I go over all this stuff, and you can ask any questions in there in the Facebook and Discord server. If you haven't already joined, if you want to become a member, go check it out. I've got a special that I've been running. I need to stop the special. It was $7 a month for the first month. Just so you guys know, it's the first month is $7. You can get in there, get access to all the videos. There's 150 videos in there. And a new one comes out every week, plus the forums and the Facebook and the live streams and all of that stuff. You get access to everything in there. So then you've got appreciation, we're going to say is about 3.5% per year. Again, the national estimates are 3.5 to 3.8%. In the US, depending on where you live, it'll be different, but this is about what we're going to count on here. You have your initial expenses as $17,000, we'll say, and your initial rent as $17,000. So what is this doing? This is effectively giving you a zero cash flow. That's what the plan is here. And then we're going to say the rent increases by 2.5% per year. Now, if you do this, if you buy one property, I know these numbers are going to seem insane, but bear with me here. These are real numbers and you can test them out yourself. Your profit in the first year of that property is going to be $13,500 approximately. That's a 67.5% return on your investment. Now you might say, John, that's crazy. That's not possible. You don't make 67.5% return on your real estate investment in the first year, but you do. You actually do. I'm not trying to sell you anything here. I'm just telling you the truth. This is why I teach people how to invest in real estate. And this is why probably you are not financially free right now. And your financial advisors who are giving you their expert advice are not financially free either. They're working a regular job. It's because they don't understand this and they don't know how to apply this and execute this. So suspend your disbelief for a second and let's just run through the numbers so you can see it. So $20,000 you've invested, correct? You bought a property for $200,000. It's a 10x lever on that. You put 10% down on that. Oh, but John, what about the rent and the mortgage? These wash. You get zero cash flow from the property. We're not assuming negative cash flow. It's a good enough deal where you're getting zero cash flow. So that washes out. In 1 year, you're paying down the principal by approximately $3,500. Check the math on that. Go look at an amortization table. Look at what happens if you get a $180,000 mortgage and see how much principal you paid out. That's profit for you because that's less money that you owe. The depreciation is $3,000. You can run the numbers on that as well. Depends on your tax bracket. It could be 2, it could be 3, but for this calculation, I'm assuming it's $3,000. So that's $7,500 of profit in the first year. That's not including the appreciation on the property. This $200,000 property, if it appreciates 3.5%, is now worth $207,000. So $7,000 plus $3,500 plus $3,000 is $13,500. You only invested $20,000, but now you gained a profit of $13,500, which is a 67.5% return. I know it seems incredible. I know it seems crazy and not possible, but check the math on this. This is exactly what it is. It's accurate. All right. So that one $20,000 investment at the end of 10 years has $167,000 profit. So that means that you have $187,000 because we didn't include the $20,000 here. It's an 837% return on your money in 10 years. That's pretty insane. But you're saying, John, well, wait a minute. Aren't you supposed to tell me how long it takes to earn $1 million? Correct. That's not $1 million. Just one $20,000 investment over 10 years is not enough. But if you do this every single year, you put $20,000 into a real estate investment on average, and you buy a property, the same math here, then this is based on the number of properties in a number of years. So in your first year, you'd own one property. In your second year, you'd own 2 properties, one property you had for 2 years. In your third year, you'd own 3 properties, one property you held for 3 years, one for 2 years, one for 1 year, and so on and so forth. And so at the end of 10 years, your total profit would be $1 million. So the answer is, if you put $20,000 a year into real estate investment, then in 10 years, you could expect to have around $1 million of profit. So the answer in that case would be 10 years. Now, looking at this chart, you can obviously see that there's ways to accelerate this. What you can see is that if you manipulate this number, if you put more than $20,000 per year, then you can multiply this. Let's say that you did $100,000 per year, which is a lot for many of you, but some of you could swing that. Then at the end of 10 years, you'd have $5 million. You just multiply that by 5. At the end of 5 years, you'd have 3.5 million, which is what I consider to be the truly financially independent point, is when you have over $3 million of net worth. So that's how that works. Now, let's talk about what most of you guys are doing, which is stock market, thinking that you're going to make $1 million, thinking that you're going to retire. This is why I'm so against this. So I did a little calculation here, not as in-depth, but assuming an 8% return on the market, and the same thing, you invest $20,000 into the market. So in the first year, if you got an 8% return on the stock market, your $20,000 investment would be worth $21,600, so a profit of $1,600. In the second year, again, you're getting an 8% return, compounding on this, you're at 23, so on and so forth. At the end of 10 years, you have doubled your money, approximately, and you got $43,000, okay, but your profit is $23,000. And if you did this every year, put 20,000, just like we did with the real estate, then at the end of 10 years, you would only have $112,000 profit. Now, if we ran this out to 20 years, or we ran this out to 30 years, yeah, you'd make over $1 million over that amount. But compounding interest takes a long time when you don't have a high rate of return, and that's the key thing to realize. So if you want to make $1 million from regular stock market investing, it's probably going to take you at least 20 to 30 years to see that. With putting $20,000, even putting $100,000 in the stock market is going to take you a lot longer than it would with real estate. So that's why I recommend doing real estate investments, because as you can see, the numbers here, they don't lie. It makes a lot more sense. So anyway, guys, that's it. There's other ways, obviously, to make $1 million. If you want to build it in business, you can shortcut it. But what I recommend is that you do a combination of things. Number one, you get a high-paying job so you can fund some of these other things and you can start investing in real estate right away. Number two, you start a business. So start some kind of business so that you can start generating extra income, and you have a business that is potentially a sellable asset that you could sell and generate that. And then number three, invest in real estate. So if you're doing all of those things, you can accelerate this timeline, because you can imagine if you can put away $100,000 a year into real estate investment, you can be well over there in 5 years time period. But you need to have the income to be able to do that. But the key thing to remember about this is that you have to do the numbers and do the math. There's so many people out there that think they're going to become millionaires, but they have no idea how. So they're just doing stuff. They're just trying to make as much money as they can out of the job. They're trying to save as much money as they can. They're trying to put as much money into their 401k and investments. Or maybe they're even smart enough to start buying real estate and they're doing it without a plan. They don't know the numbers. You need to know the numbers so you can have a goal, so you can know what you need to do to achieve that goal. It's just like trying to run a race without knowing how far you're supposed to go. How far you're supposed to go and where you're supposed to go dictates how you run that race, how fast you run that race, what kind of supplies that you bring on that race. And so it's very important. So if you want to know how to make $1 million, it starts with running the numbers like I just showed you here and having a plan. And I talk about in the Bulldog Mindset membership a lot about the compound interest calculators. I've got a whole lesson on there, and you can play with one and you can see that there are 3 factors that influence compound interest. The first one is time. The second one is initial investment. And the third one is the rate of return. You need 2 of those in order to make some serious money. So you either need a lot of time and a very high rate of return. You don't need a lot of initial capital if you do that. Or you need a lot of time and a lot of initial capital. You don't need a very high rate of return, a very small interest rate. If you have 100 years, for instance, will get you a lot of money. Or you can have a high rate of return and a high initial investment. And that's what I recommend. That's how you get rid of the time factor. Because for most of you, the biggest factor in becoming a millionaire is time. You don't want to wait 40 or 50 years to do it. You want to do it in 5 to 10 years. So that means you need to have a high rate of return, which is real estate investment, and you need a lot of cash initial investment, which is getting a high paying job or building a business that's going to kick off extra cash. That is key. If you don't have that and you're not thinking in terms of these things, and if you're talking to a financial advisor and they're just telling you about 401k and investment and 8%, lousy 8% returns or whatnot, wrong. It's not going to happen. And that's for everyone else. I get it. Like everyone else, standard going to retire at 65 or 75 nowadays. That's fine. You can go ahead and do that. It's not a big deal. But for you, if you're sitting here and you're like, no, I want to have passive income. I want to retire young and I want to be able to enjoy my wealth and to be able to have my time back and to be financially free before I'm 70, then you have to do what I'm saying. There is no way around it. You must generate a large amount of income, have a lot of initial investment, like I said, and you must get a high rate of return. That's why I created the Well That Never Runs Dry program. And that's why, what I'm teaching you works, and you have to have a plan to do this. Otherwise, there's just no other way. I'm sorry. If you can think of one, let me know. But in all the years that I've been coaching, all the years I've been helping people become financially free, I've never found another way.